30 years, 30 million album sales. We are catching up with the one and only Travis Tritt right after this. This episode of Connected with Kelly is sponsored by Pickers Vodka, proudly made in Nashville, Tennessee. So Pickers is a tribute to the musicians whose sounds fill the air in Music City. Pickers Vodka is distilled 11 times from non-GMO corn, and it's gluten-free. My new favorite is the Pickers Unplugged Vodka Soda. They're in cans. They are only 96 calories, 0 carbs, great flavors. You need to give them a try. Visit pickersvodka.com to find out more or to order online. If you've ever been a member of the country club or you smell TROUBLE, then you know who my next guest is. We are sitting down to chat with the one and only Travis Tritt. 90s country is making a comeback, and he is at the forefront of it. A brand new album out called Set in Stone, and we had a chance to dive in and talk all about it. So let's get connected with Travis Tritt. Gosh, how are you, Travis? You look great.
Thank you. So do you. How's everything going?
You know what? We're good. We are so good. I'm just happy that things are starting to get back to normal.
Man, me too.
Yeah.
It's been a crazy year.
You know, tell me a little bit about like what that looked like for you, because, you know, everybody else, I think we were all kind of looking at each other wondering like what's really happening across the pond. Is this coming here? And then it came to a stop pretty suddenly for most of us. But what was it like for you? If you have all these tours that are so far out, like how do you stop that train once it's already left?
Well, we really didn't have much of a choice. I mean, last year I had been out doing solo acoustic shows for all of January and February. And I guess I should preface that by saying that in a normal year, I do about 135 shows a year. Most of those, about 95 of those, are usually with my band, and the rest of them are solo acoustic shows that we do like in the early part of the year. So I had just come off of doing January and February solo acoustic shows, and then we went into the rehearsal studio in Nashville for a few days to get ready to start a tour that was supposed to start in early March of last year with Leonard Skinner out on the West Coast. And as soon as we got out of the rehearsal studio, we were told, hey, don't go anywhere. Stay home. And it's just like having the rug pulled out from underneath you. And then for the upcoming weeks and months, we didn't know if it was going to be just a very short temporary thing or if it was going to go longer. And obviously it did go longer. And for me, I mean, you know, I enjoy every aspect of what I do for a living. I enjoy songwriting. I enjoy the recording process. But there is no part that I enjoy more than being in front of a live audience. It's like a drug for me. Being able to be up on stage in front of a live audience and get that big ball of energy that goes back and forth from the stage to the audience and then back again. It's for an old road dog like me, it's something that I have to have it in my life. And to not be able to do it, it makes you feel like a caged animal. You know, you're just ready for the opportunity. The silver lining in last year was the fact that I did get a chance to do something that I don't normally do, which is get a chance to spend a lot of time with my family, which that was good. But when you're not able to even really, you know, leave the house, that becomes somewhat monotonous over a period of time. It's like, you know, you want to get out and, well, you can't really go on a vacation because no place is open, and you can't really do anything except just, you know, hang around the house together and maybe, you know, cook out on the grill or, you know, have meals together. But outside of that, it's kind of crazy. So nobody is happier about being back out on tour and being able to do the live performances than me.
Oh, I bet. Um, I got to ask, you said that you were kind of a caged animal, and I've heard that from so many of our friends in the industry. It's just not having an outlet, or even the outlet that you're used to having, even if it's just songwriting with other people. You couldn't even really do that in a good way because you were trying to do stuff through Zoom or whatever. Did you find a creative outlet that you hadn't tried before? Like, I had a friend that took up archery. I heard somebody else started making jewelry. Like, was there anything kind of out of the ordinary that you were like, I got to do something with my time?
Well, the one good thing that I had the opportunity to do, which I've always been an avid motorcyclist. I've done numerous trips to Sturgis for Bike Week over the years, and I've done a bunch of other trips as well. So that was the one thing that I found that my wife and we could just jump on a motorcycle and
Mhm.
take off somewhere, just for an afternoon or just for a few hours, just to get out of the house and go out and enjoy that. And that was really, it was great to get an opportunity to do that again, because it'd been quite a while since I really had that much time on my hands. I mean, I've got a garage with 4 motorcycles in it that I hardly ever get a chance to ride because I'm on the road so often.
Yeah.
So it was great to be able to do that, and of course we found other little things, we would go out from time to time and just, we've got a little campground area, bonfire area out behind my house. And we would go out there and just, build a bonfire and just hang out by that. And, we found little ways to kind of get us through, but still, it was a very strange time, just a
Mhm.
very strange time. And it makes you extremely grateful for and thankful for the opportunities to do what you do for a living. I told somebody the other day, I said, I will never complain about being too busy or take for granted the opportunity to go out and play live music again.
That's right. I hear that. I absolutely hear that. So I do want to ask you, my husband just sent me a note. Do you have a ghost on your property? What is this about?
Oh no, no, that was a property that I used to own. We had a cabin up in North Georgia,
Okay, that's what it
on
was.
Lake Blue Ridge, and yeah, we had some hauntings up there. Uh, I actually did an episode of the haunting of up there years ago, and yeah, it was strange. It was a strange time, but a lot of people, I've run across a lot of people that don't necessarily believe in that sort of thing, and then I've run across even more people that say, "Oh yeah, wait till I tell you about my experience." So yeah, it
Right.
was crazy.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's a topic for another day, but I definitely would love to hear more. But well, I'm gonna circle back around in October, and you can tell me some great stories right before Halloween. That would be super. But I do want to dive in to the new album, because when I found out we were getting new Travis Tritt music, I was like, this is what 2021 has been waiting for. Thank you, friend. We have been waiting for this. 11 songs. I listened to them last night. I listened to them again this morning, and I got to say, they are so good. How did you decide on these 11 for this project, Set in Stone?
Well, the first thing, I made a conscious decision about 12, 13 years ago that I just wanted to focus on doing the best live performance that I could possibly do. And I've been lucky because I've had enough hits over the course of my career that I can do a 90-minute or a 2-hour show or longer and have it be filled with nothing but songs that people recognize, songs that were hits for me from beginning to end. And every year, inevitably, we end up leaving some of them out because we just can't fit them all in. So I just made a conscious decision about, like I said, about 13 years ago, to just focus on that. And when I met my manager about 2.5, 3 years ago, one of the first things he said to me was, you know, you've had a great career and you've got a lot of great music under your belt, but I still think that you've got a lot of great music left in you. And I would love to see you write some more material, some new material, and record some new material, not only to feed your loyal fan base, but also to give you the opportunity to draw in new people, maybe that are not as familiar. So the more I thought about that, the more I thought probably a really good idea. But I was a little bit nervous about it because obviously being away from the studio for that long, um, you realize that things have changed a lot. There's how people record music has changed dramatically. And my manager suggested that I meet with Dave Cobb to talk about possibly producing this album. And as soon as I met with Dave, he put my mind at ease right off the bat because he said, listen, here's how I do it. I take a live band in. I don't sample. I don't do any of that. I take a live band. We all go into the same room at the same time and we lay these tracks down. And he said, not only that, not only do I want you to play guitar on this album, but I also want you to record as many of your live vocals as possible while we're laying this stuff down. He said, that's the way I do it. And immediately I just had a big smile come across my face because that's exactly the way that I've always done it ever since I first started recording back in the late 80s. So the next step was Dave said, listen, I want to hook you up with some of my favorite songwriters that I use for everybody that I record. And that, of course, includes Brandi Carlile, Sturgill Simpson, Chris Stapleton, Jason Isbell, the whole gamut. And he said, I want to hook you up with some of these young songwriters. And so we started writing a lot of this album with guys like Brent Cobb and Adam Hood and Channing Wilson and Ashley Monroe and just some great Dylan Carmichael, just some great young songwriters. And in the process, the part that surprised me about all that was almost every one of these young songwriters that I have a lot of respect for, they all told me how much my music had influenced them when they were just kids. And as an artist, I've never really thought about it that way. I mean, my goal when I got into this business was just to try to get my music out to as many people as I possibly could. But I never thought about the fact that out of that audience that I'm trying to reach, there's going to be a certain number of those people that are going to want to get involved in and want to be a part of the music business when they get a little bit older, whether they want to be artists or songwriters or musicians or producers or engineers or something like that. And you never really think about, or at least I didn't, I never really thought about how many people I might be influencing with the music that I was doing. And so it was humbling. It was gratifying. It was a great surprise for me to realize that your music has reached a whole lot more people than you really realized, and has influenced a lot of people that are currently making some of the best music that's being made in our modern times. So that was a sort of a nice surprise.
It's a full circle moment, right?
Yeah, it really is.
That is so cool. That's amazing. I do want to dive into a few of these songs at Stand Your Ground. The production on that is just perfect. Like hearing it and knowing Dave Cobb was at the helm and then hearing this album, I knew immediately, I'm like, yeah, that's who you needed, because it wasn't, he didn't change who you are and he didn't change your vocal. He just brought it out even more.
Exactly. And that was one of the biggest reasons I wanted to work with him, because there's something about the sound of the albums that he has done on all the artists that he's worked with. He likes to stay as analog as possible. He mixes to tape still, which is almost unheard of in our business. But there's something about the sound of those records that is different. And it's something that even the casual listener that can't really put their finger on exactly what it is about the songs that they're loving so much, but they know that there's something different about it. And he never tried to change anything about me. He just wanted to make a Travis Tritt record, and wanted it to sound as good as it possibly could. Stand Your Ground too. That was one of those songs that I wrote with Channing Wilson and Wyatt Durrett. Uh, when you first sit down and you're talking with these songwriters that you've never written with before, you spend quite a bit of time just getting to know each other and talking about your history. And they were asking me about, the days when I first got started in the business and being labeled an outlaw, and how I dealt with all of that. And I was telling them the story about um, about all that, and about having a hard time in Nashville when I released songs like "Put Some Drive in Your Country" and some of the other stuff. Because back in those days, as strange as it sounds to say it now, back in those days that just wasn't allowed. You couldn't do that in country music, and I took a lot of grief for it. Releasing songs that were influenced by um, something other than just straight ahead country, influenced by Leonard Skinner and the Allman Brothers and the Marshall Tucker Band, and ZZ Top and people like that. And um, it was starting to really bother me a lot until I met Waylon Jennings. And when I met Waylon Jennings, he basically lifted all that burden off my shoulders by telling me the only people that count are the people that pay to go and see your shows and pay to go buy your music. He said all these people that are saying all these things about you in a negative way, they get their music for free. So they really don't count. The people that count are the people that work hard 40 and 50 and 60 hours a week, and they're willing to spend a little bit of that hard-earned money to go out and buy your music every time you release new product, and occasionally splurge for a concert ticket whenever you play close to wherever they live. And he said, as long as you're making those people happy, you're good. And it lifted a tremendous burden off of my shoulders. Um, and it also made me realize that, the the establishment in Nashville, record labels and that sort of thing, they pretend like they know everything, and they pretend like they have a crystal ball, but they don't. And if you've played the bars and the clubs and the honky tonks and the beer joints and bowling alleys the way that I did for so many years before I ever got signed, I already knew a whole lot better than they did what my audience was, what my audience would and would not accept from me, and who I was as an artist before I ever came to Nashville. So that's where that song came from.
I want to talk about Set in Stone, the song. It talks about legacy and what you want to leave behind. So in looking at this project now, as it becomes a part of your legacy, as it becomes a part of your discography, what are you hoping that this may add a cherry on top of what has already been an incredible career with this particular album? What do you hope people will remember you by? What do you want your legacy to be?
I think first and foremost, I think that I want people to recognize the fact that I'm happy being me. And I've never felt the need to try to change or try to keep up with fads or the current, um, model of things. I just do the kind of music that moves me. And if it moves me, I know that honestly, it can move other people. And so I've never really changed. I just do. Somebody asked me not long ago when they found out that I was getting ready to go back in the studio. They said, well, what kind of album are you going to do? Is it going to be more Southern rock, or is it going to be more blues, or is it going to be straight ahead country, or what kind of album is it going to be? And I said, well, the only way I know to answer that question is to say it's going to be a Travis Tritt album, which is going to incorporate all of those different genres and all those different styles, which is exactly what I've tried to do on every single album that I've ever done. I've always had as my center straight ahead traditional country music. I grew up on it, and I still love it to this day. But I also was very heavily influenced by Southern rock. I was very heavily influenced by gospel, bluegrass, I was heavily influenced by blues. And so for me to do an album and not include some portion of all of those different things
Hmm.
would not be a complete album for me.
What do you feel is the bluesy track on this album?
Probably, I would say the bluesiest track for me is, um, let's see, it would be a combination of, uh, Ain't Who I Was and, um, Open Line. I think Open Line is very bluesy.
When you hear those songs, where do you go in your mind when you get to hear them master? Because it's so interesting to me from your point of view. When I hear a Travis Tritt song, when I hear Trouble, in my mind, I know where I am riding in my mom's car in the back seat. She's got it cranked up on the radio, the windows are down. I picture that. Where are you when you get to hear, especially the new stuff? Where does it take you in your mind when you get to hear that master?
Well, I go right back to where I was or what I was thinking when I wrote the song or co-wrote the song, or if it's a song that I didn't write, what motivated me to want to record that song in the first place. And that's where I go. I remember, for example, Ghost Town Nation was a song that I didn't write for this particular album, but the first time I heard it was right toward the end of 2020, and I I kept thinking about watching any news program on any channel, any network. And if you remember last year during the pandemic, at the end of most all news broadcasts, they would show a picture, a live picture or uh, a pre-taped uh, segment of someplace downtown. It could be
Hmm.
downtown Los Angeles, it could be downtown New York, it could be downtown Chicago, downtown Atlanta, downtown Dallas, Fort Worth, downtown San Francisco, downtown anywhere. And it literally, every single one of those places, regardless of where it was, it looked like literally like a ghost town because there was no traffic out on the streets. Nobody was out walking around. The streets were deserted. It was just empty. And I just remember how striking those images were every time I would see them. It was like, holy cow, I don't ever remember a time in my entire life where I've seen that. And I think there's a lot of other people that would agree with that. Never seen this before. This is unprecedented.
Hmm.
So I go back to every time I hear that song, I go back to thinking about those particular nights during 2020 when I was watching, a news program or some type of television program where they were showing those streets deserted that would normally be packed with people and cars and traffic. Um, and that's where I go. That's it's and if it's a song that I wrote, I go back to um, what I was thinking about and what I wanted to say at that particular time. There's a song that I wrote with Ashley Monroe for this new album called "I Don't Want to Leave This World Without You," and my wife and I had just um, had some very close friends and family members who had passed away, and we were talking about how sad it is for their spouses or their significant others because um, one of them is left behind,
Mm.
and we were talking about that, and my wife and I both agreed that in a perfect world, I I would want to leave the world at exactly the same time that you did because I couldn't stand the thought of you being gone, and she felt the same way. So I was talking with Ashley McBride about that, and that's where we came up with the idea for I Don't Want to Leave This World Without You. So it just, once again, it takes me back to those experiences of what I was thinking when I wrote the song on the songs that I was involved in writing for this album.
I look back and I'm like, 30 years. You've been doing this for 30 years.
Yeah, a little longer than 30.
Has it been?
Yeah, I
I was
started.
cutting it short. I was cutting it short. You
I,
don't look like you've been doing it for 10. So
well, thank you. I tell you, it's amazing to me because in some ways it feels like it's just flown by.
yeah.
But I released my very first single, which was Country Club, in August of 1989. And so this makes, 12 years, 32 years that I've been doing this now. And, you know, I mean, when I first got started, I mean, I wanted to have a career in the business, but that dream came true. But once you have the career established, then well, how long can I make this
Mm.
work? Because I don't ever want this to end. And to be able to look back now at over, 32 years of doing this for a living and having uh, tremendous success and so many fans and followers over the years, and it doesn't seem to show any signs of stopping anytime soon. And retirement is a word that's never been in my vocabulary in the first place. So I just want to keep on doing it, man. Nobody was more surprised when it all happened than I was. And I'm still marveling at the fact that it's still going on after all this time. But I just feel extremely blessed and extremely thankful that I have an opportunity to do what I love so much, and that is just to create the music and go out and play the music for live audiences.
Man, well, we love hearing it. Love seeing this. Hey, I've got to ask before I let you go. I love seeing when you pop up in cameos in different movies and TV shows. So is acting still on the docket? Are we looking for some acting roles coming your way, or can we see you soon?
As a matter of fact, that's something I was talking with my manager about just a few weeks ago. I would love to do at least one more really good Western. I mean, a really good one with really good, you know, really good production quality,
Mm.
really good actors involved. Something that's not just going to go straight to video. I would love to do, something like an Unforgiven or something along those lines before I get too old that I can't get on a horse anymore. But I would love to do that. The thing I've always enjoyed, I mean, I never aspired to be an actor. I just wanted to be a musician and a songwriter and a singer my whole life. But as a result of that success in that world, somebody came to me in the early days and said, "Man, we think you can act, and we would love to see you do some acting roles." And I had some opportunities to do exactly that, and with some really great people. And the thing that I found, because I was taken out of my element doing an acting role, the thing that I found is that when I came away from finishing an acting project, I came back to the music refreshed. Um, I felt like I wrote better songs. I wrote more songs. It gave me a whole new perspective on what I do all the time, because I didn't get a chance to do it for several weeks or months or however long it takes to finish up a movie project. So it's something that I still enjoy. It's a challenge for me. I I find myself not only learning my lines for a script, but I learn everybody's lines in a script before I ever start working on a movie project. But it's something that I still enjoy. And yes, if the right script comes my way, that's something I would definitely love to do more of.
Oh man, I love it. I got to tell you this. I was reading an article that a friend had written. I think it was on Taste of Country. And he said there are certain people, certain amazing artists that had major success in the 90s that are catching their second wind. And I was like, that's the best way to put this. Are you surprised, or did you feel the winds of change coming your way to catch that second wind? Because this is 90s country, man, is so amazing right now, and it does my little 90s heart so good when I get to see other people embracing it for the first time or finding it for the first time.
Well, you're not alone. I mean, I think somebody did a study or a survey or a story not too long ago about what out of all of the different time periods, what was the best time period, in your opinion, for country music? And like 9 out of 10 people, every 10 people that was surveyed said 90s country was the best by far.
Mm-hmm.
And so it makes me extremely thankful to be a part of it. You know, not only was I thrilled to have an opportunity to have a career in this business, but the timing was everything, because to get to be a part of that class of 89 with Garth Brooks and Alan Jackson and Clint Black, it really changed things. And it was reflected by the success of that particular period of time, because prior to 89, I think, country music had spurts where it had done really well from, its beginnings. And even when we went through the urban cowboy phase and in the early 80s, and, there were spots where it really came back. But in 1989, country music had dropped about 27% as far as its sales were concerned. And between 1989 and 1991, country music sales increased from about 400 million to almost a billion. And then between 1991 and 1995, they doubled again to 2 billion. So I was right in the middle of all of that when it first got started. And just to be a part of that particular time period. And now I'm looking back and I'm seeing so many people that are just like you. They are nostalgic for that particular era of country music because they consider it to be one of the greatest times ever musically in country music. And I tend to agree with them. I think that not only the music, but the stories that were told in so many of those songs, it becomes more than just a song that you sit around and listen to and tap your foot to. Those songs, a lot of them, they become the soundtrack of your life. You remember specific moments that stand out in your life, and that song was playing in the background. So when you hear it again, and then the other thing is bringing new audiences that maybe are not as familiar, younger audiences that are not as familiar with that particular era of music. And it's like they're discovering it for the very first time. So all of it's very exciting. And once again, just to have the opportunity to create new music that is still in that same vein at this point in my life is a blessing beyond belief.
Are you going to grow your hair out again?
No, my wife likes it like this. So happy wife, happy life. I've learned that lesson over the years.
I love talking to you. I could talk to you all day. Congrats on this new album. It's so good.
Thank you so very much. It's a pleasure.
Well, you heard it here. He's not growing his hair out anytime soon. However, I do want you to go and get this new album because it is so good. Set in Stone is the name of the album. Below in the comments, tell me your favorite Travis Tritt song. I mean, I've got several, but I want to hear what yours is. And while you're down there, hit that bell. That way you'll be notified when we drop new episodes each and every week, and make sure that you're subscribed. Until next time, make sure that you are staying connected with all the people and things you love the most. Bye.